Great. Okay.
So back to the mysterious letter. So as I said, the requirement in the guidelines is to avoid activities that could give rise to questions about NBN Co's political impartiality. So, Mr. Robinson, given we're sitting here having this discussion, do you still assert that there's no inconsistency with the GBE guidelines around integrity, accountability and responsibility?
Yes, Senator.
So, in the department's view, is this request from shareholders and ministers to NBN Co a breach of the guidelines?
No, Senator.
Do you consider that this request from shareholder ministers could be perceived as a breach of the guidelines?
Well, I don't, Senator, because the company has been asked to consider the best means of deployment and rollout of the NBN, and it has flexibility in making those decisions. So,
but it was going in the opposite direction, and the government asked it to cost something in the opposite direction.
So it is part of its mandate to have a look at what different approaches involve.
Well, a counterfactual is by its nature counter.
But what you've done, Minister Fifield, is have cost, not you personally, you have had costed what you thought the Labor Party policy might be.
No, Senator. We've
Well, why do you keep quoting the number that this counterfactual came up with, saying that's the cost of Labor's policy? You're the one who keeps describing it as that.
Well, NBN has...
You keep using the number.
NBN has worked on a counterfactual.
That you keep attributing as a cost to
Conroy,
Labor.
please let the Minister finish his answer.
Which is a fibre to the premise, counterfactual. And that is an example of what fibre to the premise
But you keep saying,
would cost.
And you keep saying that's Labor's policy cost.
Labor does have a policy to have fibre to the premise.
So why do you keep saying that the cost that's been arrived at in the counterfactual is Labor's cost? You keep saying it, not
the
me.
NBN counterfactual is an example of what fibre to the premise would cost.
But you keep saying that cost is the Labor Party's cost.
Labor have a policy of fibre to the premise, so the NBN counterfactual is an example of what fibre to the premise would cost.
Now, you understand when you quote this figure that it's not a full fibre rollout cost. It's as Mr Morrow, and you heard me read it out earlier, says it's a starting point of now, which means all of the costs that MTM have accrued to the taxpayer are added in to the cost of the fibre. So it's actually all of your costs, all of your cost blowouts, all of your debacles added into the cost. So when you keep quoting that number, it's not actually Labor's policy. It can't be, because it includes all of your costs.
Well, as I say, we
Do you understand the difference?
We cite the fact that NBN Co has done a counterfactual of an all fibre rollout.
No, it's done a counterfactual of starting from today, to quote Mr Morrow. It's not a full fibre rollout. It's a cost based on all of your costs and what you claim are future costs. They're not the same thing. Do you understand that now? It's a thing.
Senator Conroy,
I'm asking if you understand that there's a difference.
Senator Conroy, I understand what you're saying, but you're monologuing.
No, I've asked you if you understand the difference between the number you keep quoting as a Labor cost actually includes all of your costs, and it isn't the cost of what you claim is Labor's policy.
But what I've said is that NBN has costed a counterfactual, and that is an example of an alternative approach.
So you got NBN to cost what you believe is Labor's policy.
No, that's not what I've said.
And then you keep using it and saying it's Labor's cost.
No, I have not said that the shareholder ministers asked NBN to cost Labor's policy. That's not what I've said. NBN Co was asked to cost a counterfactual.
But what you keep quoting is a counterfactual cost that includes your MTM costs included. You understand that? So when you say Labor's got a full fibre policy and NBN have costed a number, and then you think you can put the two of them together, it actually isn't the cost of a Labor fibre policy. It's the cost of MTM starting again, creating a fibre policy. They're not the same thing.
I recognise the basis upon which NBN is doing its counterfactual.
But you don't mind misrepresenting that as Labor's cost?
I recognise the basis upon which NBN is costing its counterfactual.
So, Mr Robinson or Ms O'Loughlin, do you have any concerns at all as a professional public servant about the appropriateness of this request?
I don't, Senator, no.
Did the department have any input into this letter?
We would have assisted in drafting the letter.
So you did draft the letter? It probably started on your desk, the first draft.
Well,
I'm not trying to trap you or anything. I remember that's right. You used to do that sort of thing for me, so.
Yeah, I actually can't recall the whole process of the letter, Senator, and I wouldn't be probably able to comment on it if I did, but the drafting of the letter was, the original drafting of the letter was done in the department.
Did the department at any time...
And Ms O'Loughlin points out quite rightly, in conjunction with the Department of Finance. It's a joint letter.
Did the department at any time advise the former Communications Minister or the former Communications Minister's office that this request was not in accordance with the GBE guidelines?
I'm not allowed to provide any indication of what advice we provide, Senator.
Did you advise at any time it could be perceived as not in accordance with the guidelines?
Senator, we're not going to talk about advice that we might have given to the previous minister.
Now, NBN Co's Corporate Plan 2016 was prepared by NBN Co with the help of Bain & Company, is that correct?
We understand, yes, they had some involvement, Senator, but
Sorry, you understand?
well, we believe yes, but the extent of the involvement, etc., would best be directed to the company as to the exact.
Sorry,
exact
we're
role.
asking you who assisted provide the corporate plan. You must know. You reviewed it.
That's right, Senator.
So it was Bain & Co.
Yes, Senator.
Was the corporate plan independently verified by a third party, or did the arrangements that were in place for the last corporate plan apply again?
The arrangements,
i.e. you reviewed it?
The arrangements were as previous, Senator.
So there was no third party independent, you didn't hire anybody in, you just did it internally?
It was the same as the previous year, Senator.
Same person?
Well, it's the same in that the Department of Finance and ourselves took the responsibility for the report, and we had an external advisor who assisted us.
The same external advisors last year?
One of the same.
Who was the others? So
Who was?
Could you tell us the names of who was brought in? Surely Mr Ergas couldn't have missed out on this contract. It'll be the first the department's awarded.
No, I just forgot the name, Senator, but it was Mr Chris Martin was our advisor this year. In the previous year we had two gentlemen, but one of whom was Chris Martin.
So you only had one.
That's right, Senator?
So you reduced from 2 to 1.
Yes, Senator.
And did Mr Martin work on the corporate plan originally? The strategic review?
I think that we've been through this before, Senator. He was involved in one aspect of the work at NBN Co, but he certainly didn't have a large role in the whole preparation of the strategic review.
Now, the NBN cost-benefit analysis was paid for by the department, is that correct?
Yes, Senator.
And remind me what the exercise cost?
I'd have to take that on notice, Senator.
I think it was between 1.5 to 2 million, but if you could give us the exact figure on notice. Now, page 17 of the CBA states, and I quote, "The starting point for the analysis of the costs of each option was a series of cost models provided by NBN Co. Those cost models were developed for NBN Co strategic review." Do you remember that?
Yes, Senator.
Putting to one side for the moment the fact that the Vertigan panel assumed upwards the costs of the fibre model compared to the MTM, principally by bumping OPEX up by 180%, but putting that aside, are you aware that the cost-benefit analysis is based on the cost models underpinning the strategic review?
Yes, Senator.
Now, the strategic review modelled the cost of the MTM at $41 billion. You remember that?
Yes.
But the corporate plan in front of you now puts the cost at $49 billion up to $56 billion. That's correct?
Yes, it's peak funding is the metric, but yes, Senator.
So the strategic review is wrong by between $8 billion and $15 billion, and the cost-benefit analysis is based entirely on the assumptions in the strategic review. Is that correct?
Well, I think the cost-benefit analysis used as a base the strategic review numbers and made some adjustments, which I
discussed at length, but not a question mark of a bottom line mistake of between $8 and $15 billion. So cost-benefit analysis looks at a scenario, and the scenario is found to be by the company to be between $8 billion and $15 billion wrong. It means the cost-benefit analysis based on the original numbers also has to be dramatically different.
well,
So have you asked for your money back yet? Has Mr Regas had to give you your money back?
Senator, I think the 2016 corporate plan, from the department's point of view, is the most comprehensive corporate plan we've had from the company. And yes, the numbers are different.
No, not different. They're $8 billion to $15 billion
That's
more.
right, but that is where we are at today, and that is what the company considers will be peak funding.
So is the Vertigan panel going to be asked to redo the cost-benefit analysis of the MTM, given that the cost is $8 billion and $15 billion more?
No, Senator. NBN now will provide us on an annual basis its forecast, and its forecast based on its extremely well-considered corporate plan is the figures that you raised earlier.
Thanks. I'll be back for NBN.